Pain is part of the human experience. It's an integral part. Now, we said earlier that there's no random. There's also a law of the universe that nothing is redundant. There's no reason for it to be because everything is cause and effect. What is the purpose of pain, really? That's the question. No why there is. It's part of creation. It's part of the natural phenomenon. You want to look at it in a very different way. It means it has a purpose. And the purpose, if you look at nature, the purpose of everything is growth. So pain is part of the forces that grow something. It grows, first and foremost, the motivation to get rid of it.
So
Right?
true.
When people want to get rid of pain, it forces them to change something. So it creates a force for transformation. If pain is part of the natural phenomenon and is triggering transformation, the purpose of pain is to transform.
What comes to mind when you hear this? The wisest man is the one who knows he knows nothing.
My life.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think I'm the wisest, but I definitely feel the more I grow, the more I understand how little I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting because if you have that mentality that, you know, that you're like a constant learner, lifelong learner, and that, okay, I know a lot, and people could even be like that guy's the smartest guy in the world, or he knows everything. They can feed that, and then that can, for some people, damage them, I feel, because then they're like, I know it all. But the humble one that knows a lot realizes that that's just a little bit. So there's still so much more to learn and grow and develop and do. And so in your life, what more do you feel like you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be 10 years from now, in a sense?
Oh, wow. You know, they say the best teachers are the ones that are students themselves. My problem is I feel life is too short because I have such a big appetite. There's so many things I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I want to create art, which I want to play music. I want to basically I want to explore what I can do.
Yeah.
I love learning, and I love learning new things and new domains. So I like venturing into territories that are unknown to me. And this is, to me, the most fascinating thing.
Yeah.
So almost any direction you can think of, I want to try it.
We share that. That's similar. I'm really fascinated with things that just the unknown, trying to just look at things differently, experience things differently, try things, and get a full experience of life. Do you think the journey in life is more beautiful, I would say, or powerful externally, like the outer journey, the experiences of living in the world, doing things, love, or is it the inner journey, the one that we go within ourselves to really connect with who we are and understand who we are, or is it the same thing?
I was about to say it's really the same thing to me. It's the same thing. I find that the more I go inwards, the external is amplified. It's like everything opens up. You see more depth on the outside. The simple experience become fascinating. You know, that's my experience, for sure.
What does it mean to go inward? For somebody who's listening to this and was like, what does that mean? What does inward mean, going inward?
Is understanding and experiencing the underlying forces and aspects that are within us, that operate within us, and that are really the forces that manifest our life experience.
And you can get, when you go explore that, the inwardness, is there a limit? Is it cut
I
off?
didn't find it.
Right.
I don't know. So far, nothing in sight.
Mm-hmm. If you had like if there was one person that maybe a public person that you feel exemplifies what it means for a person to have gone inward and did the inward work, who is there anybody that stands out in your mind of who that may be?
That's a great question. There are many.
Yeah.
There are many. You can feel it on people. You know. I think one of the biggest telltales is the speed of talking in a weird way. Usually people tend to speak fast. It's words that come from the mind. It's mind, or because the mind is very, very fast. When you go deeper, things slow down. And you can tell people looking inside to find the exact right word, usually by the speed of speaking, which is very unpopular these days.
Yeah.
Speaking slowly, everything needs to go fast. So it's one of the easy ways to tell.
That's incredibly interesting. And as you're saying it, people were coming to my mind that exemplify that. So it's like, for one, Eckhart Tolle, who we've had the privilege to be on an online Zoom and ask him questions, which is incredible because of my whole history of connecting with him through his work when I was in prison. And then now he goes in the prisons to do workshops in prisons, California prisons, where I once was. And it's so crazy how that all is, but he's very just in the way that he talks. It's like you're not thinking, you're connecting with here. So it's a longer distance, right? It's like,
it's not a longer distance, it's a different system. Right? You realize when you operate like that is that words are a reduction, right? What are words? It's a reduction of a concept, of an experience. So when you connect inside, you realize the differences more vividly. So you're looking for the right words to express the exact thing that you're trying to express. So there's kind of like, it's not a search, it's a feeling. And when the feeling is aligned, then you express yourself. Now that process takes a little bit more time because you're trying to be very accurate in your choice of words.
Yeah.
So
wow.
That's usually the process.
It's like, it's so profound, mind blowing to me, because I'm like, you start to connect things in your own life. Like when I'm speaking, typically on a stage, it's all from here. And I know when I'm not here and I'm here,
Goes
faster. Like you go faster, and then I'm like, it gets me more nervous, and I'm like worried. And then if it's from here in those moments, it's like this peace, and that's where people have said like you're in this flow state. And I never knew that. That's powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah. The last episode when we did together there wasn't enough there, meaning that like I just felt like there was more we needed to talk about, and I don't think it'll ever end, honestly. And I, really grateful for you coming back, and I hope you come back again. And
grateful to be here.
Yeah, because it's such a powerful thing when you have two men that can sit across from each other and have a discussion about really deep things, and we've done that together, at your home and through the work you're doing, and it's transformed my life. And I mean, I've already transformed once, but this is a different transformation, a whole new one. And so to be able to do this, I'm just really grateful. And I talked about the last episode because in the last one we talked a little bit about, we mentioned language briefly, and so I just wanted to get your thoughts and maybe your knowledge on where did like language come from, originate, and from your understanding, and also how is language play a part in us, in our human experience?
Let me start by saying I'm grateful to be here again, and I'm grateful for the work you do and for inviting me here. I enjoy this. I don't know. Let's start with that. It's not a knowing. All right. Our universe is a vibratory universe. Everything is a vibration, right? It's very easy to understand when you talk about sound or light. You understand it's a vibration. But this table is a vibration. My body is a vibration, right? What we are is a vibration. So we live in a universe that everything is a vibration. Sound, what we call sound, is only really a small part of the vibratory spectrum, right? It's not a domain on its own. It's only a very specific narrow band that, or narrow wave band that we call sound. But in essence, there's no difference between that and every other vibration. It's only the length of the waveform. That's it.
And so everything is vibration. And then what differentiates this table from me and
the
you from
wavelength.
me is the wave. And what determines that? The wavelength, the wave, the difference. Do you know? Does anybody know? Like what determines that?
What determines the wavelength difference? It's the... Okay, so now you're getting into the manifestation of physical reality, right? But let's think of the physical reality only as a subset of all vibrations available, right? So there's a huge spectrum of vibrations, and there are certain parts. If you put it on a scale, right, on an axis, there are parts we call sound, parts we call the visible spectrum, parts that we call microwave or Wi-Fi or cellular or you name it, long radio waves. At some point, the density of the vibration becomes such that it becomes physical. So think, for instance, on the transformation from vapor to water to ice.
Yeah.
So that's where it's very easy to see how the density becomes solid. Now, that is true for the entirety of creation.
Yeah.
It seems simplified, but this is what modern physics is arriving at, right? They discovered the new state of matter, which is now called plasma, which is now defined as a different state, not gas, not solid, not liquid. Plasma is a new state of matter. Right? Yeah. So it's really about the density of the vibration. What's the degree of freedom? Right? You can turn it around and you can see it in people. Think of artists versus people that are highly rigid, right?
Yeah.
A military surgeon.
Yeah.
Right. Just to take a typecast. You can feel the degree of rigidity, which is the opposite of degree of freedom, right? A free spirit artist take an extreme example, that a stereotype, right? A hippie artist versus a military sergeant. There's movies around that, the clashes of characters, but you see it in people.
Yeah.
Right? So our universe is really degrees of rigidity, or the opposite of it is degrees of freedom, of vibration. Okay. Now, sound comes really from our senses, because this specific narrowband is defined as sound. Why? Because we detect it with our ears. That's the only reason it's called sound. Otherwise, it will be just part of a spectrum.
Yeah.
So the phenomena that we call sound is really defined by our senses. So we have one instrument that we can, or main one, that we can exert packets of sound, which is our mouth, and one instrument that detects it, which is our ears, right? And there is an agreement of what structure of packets of what we call sound represent what? Because language is really an agreement, right?
Yeah.
I create now sounds, you hear them, you detect them, your operating system analyzes and assigns meaning. The meaning assignment is based on templates that you know, and we were not directly, and there was, as we kind of touched, there was no negotiation about it, but there is an agreement, right? And we call it the English language. That's the set of rules according to which we now communicate and we connect. There's other sets. They operate a bit differently. Different languages have different structures. Right? So it's really based on our senses and the need to connect between humans. I don't know if I addressed your question.
You did. It's just like because when you talk, it's like it's like there's so much to process. It's like, and then for me personally, like I start to always look at where is the lesson in this for my own life, like where's something, because I'm always like in the pursuit of growth, and I tell the kids I work with that the world is your university and everybody in it is a teacher, and because a lot of them think that they need to go to Ivy League to be considered educated, but I was like, I never went there. I was in a prison cell reading books, but knowledge is out. So I'm always looking to learn. And so whenever you talk, I'm like thinking like, where is this lesson in my life? And so it's always a growth opportunity with you. It's pretty awesome, man.
Thank you.
So you've experienced being rigid at one point in your life. You were in the military and probably maybe in the corporate world as well. And now I know now you're experiencing the like that freedom. So you have that knowledge of both. How would you describe who you were back when you were that rigid self, and then in comparison to who you are now? And like, what is for somebody who may be rigid now, what is that, and it wants to one day experience freedom, what it's like to be that way and not maybe be tied down to this, I'm just a soldier, right? I need to fall in line, and I need to be this strict, and I need to be this hardcore, because that's what prison was really for me. Is like, follow the program. I walked out, I experienced another level of freedom. I've experienced it even in prison at some point before I left. So I'm interested, like, what is your thoughts on both?
So my take on that is the level of rigidity in humans is a direct function of fear. How much fear is operating inside? Because when fear is very dominant, you can feel your stiffness, right? The body stiffens, you get cold, you contract, right? Contraction is a form of rigidity. Everything comes together closer. It's like water freezing, right? Water can go in different directions, ice not so much.
I know.
And that's you feel it in the body. So the level of rigidity is a direct function of the level of fear that a person holds. The fear is a direct function of the level of pain that they hold. Right? So, for instance, what I do today, guiding people through their healing and growth journey, really it provides them a new level of degrees of freedom in terms of what they believe, what they see as possible, as available, as an opportunity, as doable, inside and outside, what they're capable of. So the more pain and fear you hold inside, the more rigid people tend to be. Extremely rigid personalities, basically people that hold a lot of fear and pain. That's what it is. Which is my ultimate lesson.
No, that's interesting because sometimes you look at those rigid people as the least fearful. Like some people could see that because they're like, walking around and they're making other people feel fear, and so in some places, that person who could be that rigid, that less free person could be perceived as less fearful in a sense, and that's why my experience in prison was.
So be more specific. What do you mean? You mean big guys with a lot of tattoos and big muscles?
There you
That's
go.
What you're talking
Exactly.
About? Those are the people that have the most fear.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly the opposite. They need to create this persona to scare everyone off. Why? Because they live in immense fear inside. Yeah. Their little boy that was beaten, was abused, was whatever, suffered pain, grew believing that big muscles, tattoos, and a scary look will deter the appearance of similar pain again.
Yeah.
But in the same token, what it means is their fear and pain is locked inside. So big guys would, spend way too many hours in the gym and trying to look scary. That's where it comes from. Now, on a completely different aspect of it, when I drive in here in LA, it's very common. And you see a lot of cars with completely blacked out windows.
Yeah.
Right? I think of it as like poor soul. They live in a lot of fear. They're afraid to show their face to the world. Right? They're hiding. And the connotation is this is a scary. No, it's not. It's somebody's in a lot of fear sitting inside. I'm not talking about just block some sun. I'm talking about the completely blacked out windows. Why would you do that?
Yeah. It's so interesting because in prison, those are the exact people who are feared most, but they do all of that, but it's really they're afraid inside. Yeah.
And that's a great example how we manifest our reality. Right? Because what really happens in reality is they have immense fear inside, and it flows out of them. It flows through a certain appearance. So that's the kind of the common explanation. But really, it's an energy. They hold a lot of fear inside, and everyone around them start feeling the same fear. So they think, I need to fear this guy. No, this guy is the source of the fear. Not the source because it's scary and it's bad and he's going to do something. It's the source because he's feeling it. See?
Yeah.
So, and that is a way to look at everything we manifest. You can walk into the same room and feel, oh my God, this is such a beautiful place. It's so flowing and it's so aesthetic and it's nice and it has good energy. And another day you walked into the same room, it's like, everything sucks here.
It's so true.
Everything's off.
Yeah.
Right? The only difference is how you feel.
Yeah.
Right? It can be about person, it can be about the workplace, it can be about your gym, it can be whatever. Okay. Anything. Food. we project the feeling, and then it comes back at us, and we blame the external. We superimpose our inner feeling on the external,
Right.
and we explain to ourselves. Now, the most common one is people.
Yeah. And speaking of manifestation, do you feel that a person could, get up every morning, go and meditate, and then just sit there and think about what they want, and it'll just happen? Which some people would say like how to manifest. What is it really, and is it anything? Because with you, there may not be an answer of like yes or no. There's like reframe it completely. So that's why I'm interested in this, because it's such a big.
Just set now a high bar that I need to match. Well, manifestation is a big buzzword that is flying around. And there's more probably podcasts on that than anything else. So I'm just thinking how far and how deep.
Well, no limits.
No limits. So I mentioned earlier that we live in a vibratory universe. And last time when we met, we spoke about the soul and what determines how consciousness operates a little bit. We touched on it. Right? So really manifestation, if you think of manifestation, it's arranging the building blocks of the universe, right? Today, if you look at science, we call it subatomic particles, right? But those are the same for anything in the universe. Plants, planets, our bodies, this microphone, this table, everything is built from the same building blocks, right? So manifestation is arranging those building blocks in a way that you want, right? Now, usually we talk about manifestation as how to achieve what I want. Yes? Now, what do we want? We want something that makes us feel good. That's the essence. Doesn't matter which category, right? Things that make us feel good. Now, if the entire universe is vibratory, right? So what determines which vibration comes at us? Right? Because you want the vibration that comes at you, and doesn't matter which category. Is it food that will be tasty, music that will be nice to your ears, people that you enjoy their company, or a lifestyle, or a car, or whatever, right? What determines which vibration comes? Because it's all vibration, right? So what determines that? So there is a very famous experiment that was first done in 1801, which is called the double slit experiment. And only in the last part of the last century, so almost 200 years later, people repeated this experiment. And the essence of the experiment, it shows that photons and other atomic level, different sizes, atomic level particles behave differently based if there is an observer or not. So if there is an observer, those particles behave as particles. But if there isn't, they behave as wave.
Okay.
Right? So there is the outcome of this experiment, and it's one of the biggest foundations of modern science, is that if there is an observer, a subatomic particle behaves differently. Now, what's the meaning of that? The meaning is that the fact that there is an observer changes the behavior of matter, of a vibration. Now, since then, there's many experiments that show it in different levels, right? There's a Japanese researcher that showed how music, sound, changes the makeup of water, how water crystallizes when it freezes. So there's a lot of manifestations of it. But the essence is there is an observer, meaning a consciousness, a conscious observer looking at the experimental equipment, the experiment's equipment, that defines if a particle behaves one way or the other, which means that we, the observer, we not only observing, we're influencing how the subatomic particles behave, right? Now, we said that we live in a vibratory universe, and matter is only a level of density.
Right.
All right. So now you see the connection between the consciousness observing and the behavior of the subatomic particle, which means you affect it, right? So our consciousness, when we observe matter, we influence how it behaves. We're not a passive observer, opposed to popular belief. Because, and we can talk about where it came from, but we tend to believe that, we're just experiencing what is out there. No, we're actually an active participant in creating what's out there. Right? Now, that has immense ramifications, because if you accept that, you understand that humans are not kind of some organism stuck to a rock, flying through space in very high speed, have no influence in the middle of a galaxy, in the middle of a universe that nobody knows where they are. It's all the opposite. We are the creator of that universe. Our consciousness is what forms the entire universe. So it flips human perspective of reality on its head, really. You understand? So so talk about modern physics. There's in theoretical physics, there is a talk about the universe is made out of time and space. Okay? But where is it? Where is the time and where is the space? Where is it happening? And in really cutting-edge theoretical physics today, there is growing consensus that the one foundational element of the universe is consciousness. Time and space exist in consciousness. Consciousness is the foundation of everything. And that demonstrates the flip of our perception of our place and role in the entire universe. Right? We're not a side effect of the planet, of a rock flying through space, God knows where. It's the opposite. The universe is existing inside our consciousness. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go back to manifestation. If you accept that, it's easier to understand that our consciousness is what forms and what decides what's the level of the density and the manifestation of the vibration. The vibration exists. And we'll talk about it in a minute. The vibration exists. Our consciousness, the observer, defines it. And that's what, and on the way here, I listened to our last podcast just to remember what we talked about. And what defines the subatomic particle that is part of my finger versus the next subatomic particle that's part of the air around it? What defines this boundary? This one is mine, this one is not part of mine.
Yeah.
What defines? And the answer is my consciousness and our collective consciousness. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So that defines the makeup of the vibration. But let's use the example of a painting. Painting, when you look at a painting, what do you see? You see the drawing of the painter on the canvas, right? Your experience is through the paint and the color that it emits, the vibration that it reflects back on the canvas, right? So that's the role of the consciousness, the perception and the definition, this is red, this is green, concepts that we agreed through language between us. And that's how we have that experience. But what defines the type of canvas? The canvas is the raw vibration. And the raw vibration is generated by the vibration that we emit, by our heart. Our heart is the engine that creates the vibration, and the observer is the one that defines it. So the raw vibration is like the canvas. If the canvas of the painting is crumpled, look at the pen, okay, it's okay. And if it's stretched and it's smooth and it's almost non-existent, and you're saying, oh my God, this is such a beautiful painting, it stands out, right? So the raw vibration comes from our feeling. And that goes back to how you feel when you walk into the same room. One day it looks this way, and the other day it looks, or you meet the same person.
Yeah.
It's the vibration that you emit creates the canvas on which the events are painted. Make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if I did a good job explaining.
No, absolutely. I think that's like the most profound and the best explanation I've ever heard on manifestation, honestly. So the observer, how we choose, is that a choice to how we observe that, or we observe that through the lens of a person? There's an example, a person that has experienced a lot of trauma in their life, walks into a room. That observer, is that observation impacted by that in comparison to another person who hasn't experienced that level, those levels of trauma, come in and see it? Two things, one person looks at it as completely opposite than the other. So what determines on how you observe something?
So in the Jewish mysticism, there is a saying that goes, everything is predetermined and permission is granted. It's loose translation. Now, it sounds contradictory.
Right.
Because on one hand, it says there is determinism, everything is predetermined. On the other hand, you have free choice. So nothing is predetermined. Now, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So, and another element that is important to mention here, in nature, there is no random function. Doesn't exist. There's nothing in nature that is random. So our current understanding of the entire universe, all based on cause and effect.
That's true.
Bazillion chains of cause and effect, one intertwined with the other. Very large number. That's what creates the experience. So there's no such thing as random, right? Now let's tie those elements. Everything is cause and effect. And our perception of reality and our experience and how we show up to life is also cause and effect. We just don't see all the causes and all the effects. And some of them are within our perceived control, and some of them are outside of it. But there's one thing that is unique to the human organism, which is free will. So how do those two coincide? The free will is not, I want Pepsi or Coke.
Yeah.
There's no free will there. The free will is whether to embark on a journey to free yourself from the templates that were implanted in you by the events you underwent or not. That's the free will. Right?
Mm.
What we are is many, many templates layered on top of each other.
Right.
Until we decide to embark on this journey. But this journey, and this is the journey of healing and self-realization, does not give you complete free will. It will not free you from gravity.
Right.
It will not free you from living in a vibratory universe. So you're still constrained by some ground rules of how the human experience is operating. Or in more modern words, how this simulation works. You're constrained by that. But within that, and that's a lot, you have free will.
Yeah.
So either you operate as a very, very narrow set of templates, or you open your ability to operate outside of it, but you will always be constrained by some level of templates. For example, but what you can imagine, by the language that you know.
Mm. Yeah.
See? So it's degrees of freedom. So yes, you do have free will, and it stems from one. Do I want to undo some of the templates, the ones I can undo? And that goes through deep healing and growth and essentially the journey of self-realization. But you will never free yourself from gravity,
Right.
from the world of vibration that has certain rules and those kind of things.
And those that get the opportunity to embark on that journey to that freedom, is it, in your thought, in your perspective, is that like predestined for those people to even be granted that opportunity? Like I did. I mean, my life was an accumulation of things that led me up to where I'm at today, including my healing and the people that, and just the ability to grasp something that interests me and me to pursue it. All that, is that predestined in comparison to another person that was exactly where I once was, didn't have those situations come into their life to then be introduced to that. And then they, who knows, they could be the mentally ill homeless person on the corner that's screaming at the top of their lungs, and that you just see them and they're like, wow, that person has a lot of mental health issues. And that's how society would define it. Like who decides, or what decides who gets that opportunity to embark on that?
I'm going to say something that is very politically incorrect now.
It's okay.
But
this
people are not equal,
Mm.
unfortunately, but they're not. They're different. From my understanding so far, it is determined by the type of soul. There's different types of souls, right? There's different traditions that they talk about the soul tree.
Mm.
What soul tree the soul is coming from. And from my experience working with people, I believe this is true. And for example, one of the variables that I find is very determining how much free will, because it's not only free will, it's also motivation.
Mm.
Right? Those two variables, and courage, because you face pain in this journey. So how much of those a person has is in many cases predetermined, but it's not what meets the eye out of the gate. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the guy that experienced some serious drama in the military, and exhibited courageous behavior, it doesn't mean they're going to be exhibiting the same level of courage when they face their fears. So it's not what meets the eye. But that said, different souls have different capacity. It also requires a certain meaningful level of intelligence. Just to go through this self-realization journey, it requires intelligence. Not everyone have the same level. So as much as I'd love to live in a world where everyone is equal, and how noble this idea is, the reality that I meet in my experience, that's not the case. And it's not what meets the eye. So you can't judge a person just by looking at them. You won't know. But when you go deep and you really engage with them, there are variables that are very, very different.
It's powerful. And it's truth. This question came from this morning. I was like thinking, like, what am I going to ask? Because there's so many things I could ask, so many rabbit holes we can go in. So, I'll say black holes because they're into the unknown, right? Like the questions, like I don't know where it's going to go. Honestly, I just know it'll go somewhere. And maybe black holes can be something we talk about as well, because I'm really fascinated with black holes. Recently, I've been more fascinated with it. But why is there human suffering?
So let me ask you a question. Do you know anyone that didn't encounter pain in their life?
No.
So, me neither. Now, regardless of the size of pain, everyone encounters some pain. When everyone encounters some pain, that tells you one thing, that pain is part of the natural phenomena.
Okay.
So pain is part of the human experience. It's an integral part. Now, we said earlier that there's no random. There's also a law of the universe that nothing is redundant. There's nothing in creation that's redundant. There's no reason for it to be, because everything is cause and effect. So the question is about pain. What is the purpose of pain, really? That's the question. No why there is. It's part of creation. It's part of the natural phenomena. So it has a purpose. So the question is not why it exists. What is the purpose?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so if what is the purpose, then you want to look at it in a very different way. It means it has a purpose. Start with that. And the purpose, if you look at nature, the purpose of everything is growth. Everything grows until it doesn't, but it has a growth purpose. Already indicates where the answer is going to end, right?
Exactly.
So pain is part of the forces that grow something. What does pain grow? It grows, first and foremost, the motivation to get rid of it.
So
right?
true.
Now, what does that do? When people want to get rid of pain, it forces them to change something.
Yeah.
Right? If one foot hurts, you step on the other one. It's already a change.
Exactly.
Right? So it creates a force for transformation.
Yeah.
Right? So if pain is part of the natural phenomena and is triggering transformation, then the purpose of pain is to transform. Transform what? Why? To what? So that's the question, right? Right. The biggest pain we face is internal, right? There's many stories about people that faced physical pain and endured, but emotional pain is much harder.
Yeah.
People crumble with it. People commit suicide. People just don't live. They get depressed for life. The internal pain is always bigger. Right? So it tells you that pain is a force of for transformation, and it's mostly focused on inner transformation. So we're zeroing in on something, right? If you look at people that went the furthest in their internal transformation, those are the people that feel realized, right?
Yeah.
And there is the whole movement of enlightenment, right? Of awakening. Those are different levels on the same axis, right? So it gives you kind of a high-level answer. What's the purpose of pain? Make sense?
It makes sense completely. Yeah, it's like anything. It's all an experience: suffering, love.
Totally.
And the way that you described it,
life.
Yeah, it's life.
Life is an experience.
Yeah, it makes suffering can actually be looked at as something that's beautiful in a sense. And as I look at my past suffering, and I'm sure you can connect with that, like that suffering, it ended up creating what we have now, our life, and the way
creating who you are now.
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. That's amazing. So I want to just talk, to kind of, start wrapping it up, and it's just never enough time with us. But like you said, we're always restricted by something, right? Gravity, time, everything. I want to get your thoughts on AI. Overall, like, what comes to mind when I ask you that? Like, what is your thoughts on AI, and what it means for humanity?
Let me start with the second one. It means transformation. The world or the human experience is changing in a very rapid way, faster than ever. I think, like every phenomena, it has multiple facets. Right? But in general, AI signifies a new era in the human experience, in the sense. If you look at the human experience, let's say 200 years ago and back, right? Mm-hmm. The way to have a life was based on effort.
Right.
You had to work the field. You had then the 200 years ago-ish, the Industrial Revolution came, and people worked in factories or something else, or built roads. So sustenance came through effort. Once the Industrial Revolution came and got some mileage, the way to create sustenance, for one, became knowledge. That's where universities started to flourish. Right? And we lived in the age of information and knowledge. Not the same, but think of people that were regarded as achievers, people that had a lot of knowledge, either overall or in a certain domain. Right? So knowledge was the vehicle to create sustenance and have a good life. Right? It can be specific knowledge, it can be general knowledge, doesn't matter. But it became harder, and just sheer labor professions became the lower level of society. Now we're moving to a new era. where knowledge is commoditized. Essentially, already today, you have all of human knowledge in your pocket. You don't need to know anything. ask ChatGPT and you'll get a decent answer.
Yeah.
Maybe not complete, maybe biased, but some answer. You get the footing. You can start, and if you know how to use it, you'll get a pretty comprehensive and deep answer if you know how to use it. So knowledge is becoming a commodity, which, in my view, will trigger one of the fastest and most comprehensive transformation of social structure. Because think, all the middle layer of society is based on knowledge. Lawyers, doctors, accountants, so many professions.
Right.
People that write code.
Yeah.
Software engineers, right? The highest earners as a class of employees in the last 2-3 decades, going away in one shot, right? Within, probably by the end of the decade, we'll have a completely different social structure. Now, what's going to happen to people that can't adapt?
They're going to have to get creative.
Yes, that's exactly it. So I believe that we're heading towards an era where the currency to create real good life and sustenance for oneself is creativity. Not knowledge and not labor. And you have more and more solutions that enable you to manufacture anything you want from scratch, not knowing anything about the domain, with AI, with all kinds of manufacturing tools, on demand, whatever you want. Now, what we'll see is a big part of society struggling to adapt, and a small part of society that adapts quickly. And naturally, people that are more adaptive, they're usually the younger ones. So you're going to have a major, and on the other end, as society is today, wealth is held by the older generations. They accumulated it. So there's going to be flip on that. So we're heading towards, it already started, but it's going to accelerate and exponentially grow, this social transformation. In the last year or two, it's the first time that the tech sector is laying off people. It's not growing, it's shrinking.
Yeah.
Right? Corporates are downsizing because they are replacing a lot of stuff. So AI is, you can look at it as a threat, or you can look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So people that will manage to find their creative side and invoke it truly, and it needs to be unique because competition will be fierce and immense. But creativity always has a room. So if you can find your creative side, you'll survive. If you can't, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah. That's good to hear, because I would label myself pretty creative. So I'm good. I'm going to be okay, I feel. Yeah, man, thank you so much, Dan. It's so much there for whoever's listening and watching to digest and to reflect on. And I definitely want to continue to have these discussions and to learn more from you. You bring so much to the world. And I'm just really grateful for you. And I just want to thank you for coming. And I want you to end it with whatever you feel in your heart, right? So not the fast talking, but the slower, coming from the heart. Last thoughts.
So first, thank you for having me. I enjoy this, and I love the work, and I deeply appreciate it. I think anyone that watches the stuff that you manufacture on all media in all forms just benefits. So thank you for doing this. Last thoughts. I find that people operate a certain equation. Most people walk through life with quite a bit of pain. And people operate an equation that essentially is the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. Meaning, the pain I'm walking with is okay, I made peace with it. I know how to operate it. And they're afraid of facing it, really, facing the pain inside. And they're afraid to venture on the path of real deep healing and exploration of what is it that, who they are and what they are. And it gets them stuck in a life that is kind of a mixed bag at best, and in many cases has a lot of pain and repeating patterns, etc. From my personal experience and from leading people through, many people through this process, my message would be, don't be afraid. Everyone has a life beyond their imagination available for them. The only thing that's required is the courage to venture on this path. And don't expect it to be easy or quick. We live in a world of fast solutions. Anyone that promotes you a quick solution, snake oil. It's not true. But the gain, the life that you can get through this process is far beyond anything you can imagine.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of the episode. I just really appreciate you being here and continuing to follow our journey on the How to Battle podcast and Carlos Unfiltered. If this podcast really resonates with you, it's impacted your life in some way or inspired you, please remember to share, subscribe, like. All that stuff helps to contribute to our growth. I want to give a special shout out to the sponsors that believe in us and have supported us through this whole process of building our podcast. And that's Legendary Foods, that's Alchemy Spa, that's Box Union, and that's Youth Champions, all incredible organizations that do amazing work and have helped me certainly in my life. So check them out. All their links are in the notes. And just want to leave you with this. If you don't do anything else, just remember, every day, do one thing to help another person. And you'll find so much more fulfillment in your life, and you'll make an impact in the world like we're all trying to do. So thank you again.